Welcome to the Non-Human and AI Identity podcast. By humans, for humans, no AI-generated content. Hi, I'm Lalit Choda, founder of the Non-Human Identity Management Group. On this brand new podcast show, I'll be hosting the leading voices shaping the future of non-human and agentic AI identity. Hi, welcome to the Non-Human and AI Identity podcast. I'm really excited to have Itamar Apelblat, CEO and co-founder of Token Security, join me for this episode. Itamar, why don't you just give a short, brief intro on your background and maybe something interesting that people might not know about you?
Hello. It's first of all, it's great to be here, and Lalit, thanks for initiating this. We've been walking and talking for now, I think a couple of years, right?
Yeah,
Like already like 2 years. So very happy to be here. So my name is Itamar Apelblat. Um, I'm originally from Israel, from Tel Aviv. I'm based in New York right now, uh, and I'm a second-time entrepreneur. And I was building security products my entire life. So since I was 18, I joined the A200 unit, which a lot of cybersecurity entrepreneurs came from, but I was in the defensive side. So building products, I really love to do that and saw how identities are changing. And maybe a fun little story is that not many people know, but the idea that on token was actually from a reserve duty. So I was called back to that unit for one day, for a couple of days, and then we saw a huge gap in non-human identities that made me really want to tackle this space and also IDO. So yeah, really excited to be here.
great. Thanks for that intro and insight. So look, before we get into the main discussion, Mr NHI is going to put the human identity in the hot seat, all right, where I'm going to fire 10 machine speed questions on identity and management and security, including non-human and agentic identities. All right, so let's go. Are you ready?
I am.
All right. Are CISOs ready for the fleets of autonomous digital employees that are about to come?
No, but they're about to. They will have to, yeah.
Right. Is IAM for AI more important than AI for IAM?
I think that the foundation is in how can we secure AI. So yeah, I think that it is more important, but we have to use AI in order to be more effective.
Right. Do you think AI agents are currently being deployed without security guardrails in production?
Yes, I know that for a fact.
Right. And do you think the current identity standards are fit for autonomous systems?
No, we have to rethink on those new types of identities.
Great. I'm sure we'll discuss that more later.
Yeah.
Does agentic AI security equal NHI security?
No,
Okay. Do AI agents behave more like employees or software?
it's a combination of the two.
Okay. Do you think static, long-lived credentials secrets will still be here in 5 years' time?
Unfortunately, yes, I'm sure they will.
Okay, this is an interesting question. Will AI agents eventually need to have proper background checks like humans?
Um, Yes, in a different way, in different processes, but yeah, we will have to validate them before onboarding a new agent.
Okay. Do you think regulators will be able to move fast enough to keep up with agentic AI?
No,
Okay. And finally, will the AI agent digital workforce lead to mass unemployment?
yeah, this is a hot take, but no, I don't think so. Um, but it will change a lot of our existing ways of working.
Great. I hope you enjoyed that, Itamar. Very insightful. Appreciate your insights. Okay, look, the key focus of today's topic is to discuss agent identity security predictions. This was based on a blog you and Ido produced at Token Security. So we'll cover some of the predictions that I picked out from there that I thought were going to be quite good for the audience. And then we'll, learn a little bit more about token and maybe time permitting, ask a few more questions. All right. So one of the predictions that stood out for me was that you said the AI agent IAM stack will need to be rebuilt around a non-human identity first design. So why do agents fundamentally break the way enterprises think about identity and security up to now, and why we need that NHI first design?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. So right now, um, many IM teams are just looking the other way, but the other ones, and also from AI platforms, what we see right now as the common way on thinking on AI agents is, hey, let's look at the consumer of the agent, the person that invoking the agent, and give the agent the same permission that that individual has. Um, and that makes sense in on theory, but an agent um, meant to take actions, and it meant to solve a problem. And it's true that people are invoking some of those agents, but it's also we see more and more multi-agents architecture. And in general, we see that a lot of the existing non-human or deterministic workloads are changing. And right now, almost every workload is leveraging AI. And we see this shift also in our own technology by ourselves. So what we will have to do is be more focused on the goal of the agent, what it actually meant to do, and not only asking ourselves and who invoked that agent, who initiated that action, but also correlate it with the purpose. Therefore, it has to use and leverage non-human identity mechanism. And that's why the non-human identities are basically the links between the AI agents and our important resources in our enterprise. And we need to take that goal and intent into consideration when we want to manage the permissions and access of the agent.
Okay, let's maybe get into that a little bit further.
Yeah,
Clearly, AI agents, agentic AI, are a subset of non-human identities. Yes, there's a lot of issues managing NHIs. Many orgs struggle with that anyway. But where do AI agents then take the challenge to the next level? As you said, we're going from deterministic software workloads to kind of autonomous agents. So what do we need to kind of think about as we, redesign, rebuild, kind of a IM stack to deal with, agentic AI? You know, you've touched on a couple of those points
yeah.
around context and intent.
Yeah, well, first of all, we need to look at the agent a bit similarly to how we looked at a classic non-human identity in a way that we need to understand who is using this agent, who is accountable, who is sponsoring this agent, and what actions these agents can actually do.
Mm,
Um, but an AI agent is also connect. It's a bit different than the classic non-human identity, not just because of the non-deterministic mechanism, but also because of knowledge and tools that it's connected that are external or in other platforms. So what we want to do is analyze all of this information, look at it from a data perspective, a data problem, and understand, hey, this agent meant to do X, Y, and Z. That's why it needs the permission uh, um, in this platform to do this and in that platform to do that. And what we see right now with agent security is that there's even a question about, hey, wait, how do I even secure AI agents? There's prompt injection, some different guardrails. Our perspective is that the only way to actually secure an AI agent is assume that that it will go wrong, that it will be malicious, and then ask yourself, okay, what actions can it actually perform in our important resources? If I have an AI agent that is not connected to any important platform in our enterprise stack, then the risk is quite low. But as it connected to more applications and have more autonomy to
mm,
take actions, we need to now start to realize how can we protect and lock down this access in order to that when it will get compromised or get wrong, it will not do things that we are not expecting it to do.
Do we think, for example, that the classical model would be, your process starts up, it authenticates, it finds out what it's allowed to do in terms of authorization, and you kind of preload all that at the beginning, clearly with the autonomous nature. Either do we need to move more towards kind of dynamic kind of, authorization based on, what you're talking to, what you may be deciding to do next. That feels like a big paradigm shift in how we design software today,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, 100%. When we had a deterministic app, list privilege wasn't an easy task, but it was very feasible. I could just look in the past and ask myself, okay, this service account, this workload did those type of actions in the past 2 years. So we should just restrict it according to
Mm.
that, right? But now when we have a goal-oriented service, it can be unpredictable. It can take actions that haven't taken in the past. And also we see that our own models are being adopted and changing all the time. And usually those AI agents are using top of the shelf models. So those capabilities are keep getting better and different. So again, understanding what it meant to do is more important than what it have been doing in the past.
Okay, fascinating. Look, I think we could spend hours just on this
Yeah. Yeah.
particular topic, but let's move on. So one of your other predictions was AI coding agents will become a major source of identity misconfigurations. Look, this is something very close to my heart. When I had a post a few weeks ago where I was actually playing with some vibe coding myself, and I said, look, I want to connect to Open AI API, to a WordPress database and another database, and the default code that came back was all hard-coded, static credentials, and it really annoyed me. But it is what it is. But yeah, what are your thoughts on coding agents being a major source of identity misconfigurations?
Yeah. Um, it's uh, it's interesting and it's keep evolving as we speak. So today, it's after already we saw Claudebot or Open
Mm.
Claude and the different social networks on top of that that are keep evolving. So things are moving fast. But when it comes to vibe coding, I think that what's interesting as a change is that AI really changed the cost on creating new software. And
Mm.
vibe coding is a really good example for that, right? It's much easier to create new applications, new services, way more than before. We used to talk about AI agents to be the 10x developer leveraging AI. Right now, we see some of our developers that really adopted AI, they are 100x. And it's really influencing how we build software. And what we see is that developers are the first to adopt all of those new technologies. For example, Open Cloud, we see it in 22% of the enterprise right now of our customers running in their employees' endpoints in the workstation, those agents that are, it was just a surprise for us how
Wow,
big
that's
is
a
the
shocking
phenomena,
stat.
right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to MCP servers and really the developer experience is changing so quickly. We see a lot of local MCP servers. So it's not just static credentials as an issue, it's also how closer we bring the access to the actual developer and how fast is their experience is changing over those new type of technologies. But yeah, local credentials, static credentials are now becoming almost a phenomena of the past, are now becoming, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. So here it's rhyming loud and clear, and it's very interesting to see that change.
Yeah, look, it's fascinating. Even I've started doing coding after, not doing it for the last 10, 15 years, and it's so easy. And I kind of think, if you're more of a junior developer and you don't understand, the best practices around security, well, many people don't know that, where to follow that. And if, the vibe coding tools, recommend, all these bad misconfigurations and practices, then we're just going to make things even worse. It's really
Yeah.
shocking what I'm seeing.
I'll give you another example, not just in coding, because we see now in enterprise that are using the enterprise version of the different um, chat experience, right? So OpenAI Enterprise, Claude, they have this in part of the agreement is that the data that I'm putting there will not OpenAI will not use for training, right? So
Mm,
everyone feel that they are secured and they can use OpenAI in a secure way. But what we see in reality is that they are not thinking that sharing secrets, sharing credentials with those platforms is not necessarily the fact that it's not being trained with this data doesn't mean that it's not have access and it's not stored somewhere that you can query and get this information. So right now, actually, we see that the secrets exposure is just became much wider. On one hand, it's moving more and more into the um, different chat experience, and on the other hand, it's also run in the local computers more than ever before. So it's just an interesting how um, people are assuming that yeah, OpenAI is will not train our data. It doesn't mean that I can share whatever data I want with them, right? So this is an interesting anecdote.
yeah, I mean, like you're referring to, like the Moltbook breach, right, where 150,000 KPI agent keys have been compromised, right? It's showing how this is just getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to one of your next predictions. You were saying compliance frameworks will undergo a major overhaul to account for AI agents in the workforce. What are your thoughts on that?
So we are working and we're talking with a lot of different auditors and different organizations, try to understand how they think about this change. And in reality, um, the first instinct is to adopt what we have into this new reality.
Hmm,
But I think that this new reality that we are seeing right now really makes us need to think differently about all of our existing processes, and compliance is one of the biggest one.
hmm,
Things that we could have done in the past are not achievable in that speed, in that scale. AI agents are growing and are really changing our entire ecosystem of identities, overpassing human already and gonna overpass our deterministic workloads as well. And that creates a new challenge that we really need to redesign how we think on securing it, and also how are we as an auditors, how can we support organization to really have the right processes. So right now, I think unfortunately, um, um, the 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 compliance frameworks are quite late to the party, and what's the challenge is that this party keeps changing all the time, right? But I'm curious, Lalit, from your perspective, because you are also talking with other vendors and most importantly with other customers and individuals. How do you think about compliance right now? You see that this is catching up or not yet?
Yeah, look, it's a great question. Look, I was fortunate to be at the OWASP Agentic Applications launch, about a month ago, where they announced the top 10, and this topic of kind of regulations came up in one of the chats. And clearly you've got, you know, so many different, you know, jurisdictions. Just take the US, and each state, going with different ways to look at regulation, and compliance, and then all around the world. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of I think they're struggling to catch up. I think everyone's got a different view on things. And look, compliance, regulatory stuff always kind of was playing catch up, but I think with the pace at which AI is moving, agentic, we really do need to ensure that the appropriate guardrails are there. Yeah, one of the things I hear regularly is how do we govern agentic AI that comes through regularly. I guess when I think about some of the frameworks or some of the regulatory things, let's take SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley. When that was my first exposure to like dealing with NHIs over 25 years ago. Um, and financial systems, which are some of the most highly regulated, environments from an audit compliance standpoint. Like, you know, you know, you need to be able to prove your books and records are financially sound, and going with deterministic processes, helps you. You've got to prove that your books and records are sound, they haven't been changed. If you start introducing kind of agentic processes into that financial, workflows where it's not going to be deterministic anymore, how does that even going to work? Are you allowed to even apply agentic AI to sort of very heavily, regulated industries like the financial industry? So it raises some real huge questions, right? And then something else came up at the launch where they said, to your point, everybody's using the standard LLMs, right? But they keep getting upgraded,
Yeah.
right? So how do you prove, that you've now gone to version 4.5, 5.0 of OpenAI? Was what you tested before still valid, or is now the behavior, or what it's doing changing just because the models have got upgraded? So there's a lot of big implications, right, around compliance, regulatory audit, around the use of agents.
I agree. And you think that so far they're gonna catch up, or you think that
No, I think there would just be sort of light touch things. I think
yeah.
existing control processes that you have as a business, I think will still kind of apply. But I think they will be catching up.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay. Another one of your predictions was security incidents will spike due to identity mismatches between employees and agents. I kind of found that interesting, and I'd like you to explain what you mean by that, and your thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. When we started talking security, um, identity already was the number one reason for every breach that we saw. But now that we have this such a great excitement on this new technology, and look, Lalit, we're living in probably the most exciting time in terms of technology in our lifetime, right? And 10 years ago, we were jealous this moment that we were experiencing, and people in the enterprise are pushing the organization to adopt AI, and the ones that will win and will succeed. But the identity piece is so hard for them to manage, to understand, and to control. What we will see right in the next couple of years is that attackers will use, because that was the most lucrative way to gaining into organization 5 years ago. It's going to be much easier now when you have this large appetite of adopting this technology on one hand, and on the other hand, a lot of real challenges on controlling their access, on monitoring them, on managing the life cycle of those agents. And all of those are basically identity mismanagement, misgovernance that attackers will will just use, right? So I think that attackers and software engineers are a bit similar, and I'm a software engineer in my background, and Ido is an attacker in his background, right? We are both lazy. We want to do things the fastest that will give us the largest amount of value, right? Like we're looking for those shortcuts. For an attacker, identity was, and it's going to be now even more, the easiest path getting inside. Especially now that developers are going to look for more and more shortcuts to build more and more software faster, the identity will be the missing point.
Okay. And what do you think kind of we can do to defend against security incidents that are going to spike, where they're going to attack identity more and more? Any thoughts on how we need to defend against that?
On how defending on that, I think
Yeah.
there's um, um, three layers on doing that. So first of all, we have to gain visibility into our agents ecosystem, understanding that this inventory of agents is changing by the minute. At Token, we took an approach of looking at the resources that the agent's interacting, and by that, knowing what is your agent ecosystem and also connect directly to them. We can talk a little bit about that, but first one is gaining this visibility. The second thing is treating those agents like part of our workforce, because this is what
Mm.
they are. This is basically their mission. If they are part of our workforce, we need to manage them just like we have processes for our human identities, right? So managing their life cycle. Right now, we see a lot already of inactive agent. So the first thing is managing those processes, life cycle that are so important. Understanding who's the owner and who can use them and what they can do.
Mm.
The third part is now restrict them and restrict their access based on what they meant to do. And the last part is, and that's something that the industry itself trying to discover as we speak, is how can we detect suspicious activities, anomalies in a non-deterministic service. Our perspective is a bit similar to how we did it for human identities, where it's if we look at the intent, the goal of the agent, and then at the same time look at their activities, when we see those mismatches, this is where we flag and take action. So this is the new agentic ITDR that needs to change as well. But it starts from visibility, continuously managing them, restrict the access, and then continuously monitor their activity.
Sure. I mean, obviously, those are all the foundational elements also of NHIs more broadly.
Yeah.
And I think the kind of monitoring thing is really one that fascinates me because as things, as you said, become non-deterministic, agents talk to agents, how you can trace the activity, and follow through the, chain of command and, that, yes, this agent is now talking to this one, but, do you have the full audit trail?
Yeah.
To tie it back, now it's the requester inside another agent. Do you know it came from agent X to agent Y to agent Z, right? I think it's going to put much, much bigger challenges on kind of the ITDR side of things. Would you
Yeah.
agree or?
Oh, I completely agree. Multi-agent ecosystem create first of all an audit like compliance hell. Like I don't know, it's hard to audit it. It's hard to understand who invoked what was the purpose, not only from security lenses, but also from operational lenses. I have now an agent that did this action. Why did it do that? There's a bug, there's isolation. Who started that, right? So those chains of agents speaking to another or person invoking an agent that talks with another one and talks with another one that take an action. How can we connect the invoker permissions and goals into those chains of agents calling another agent, that will create a lot of those new challenges. And right now, the industry is thinking more and more from input output validation, so kind of a prompt injection.
Mm.
But this is not enough. We have to log this information and we have to understand again what's the goal, of each agent that call the other agents in order to restrict it. But yeah, I agree with you that this will be a major pain already.
Okay, look, thanks for sharing some of the insights from
Yeah.
kind of your predictions for agentic in 26. Why don't we maybe shift gears a little bit and share a little bit about sort of what you're doing at Token with regards to the sort of
Sure.
NHI
You know
space
what?
and agentic.
Before we will jump into token, I'm curious, Lalit, what is give me one prediction that you have on this space. You've been talking with regulators, with vendors, with customers. What do you think will be a major change or something that will happen in this year that we should take a look at?
So a great question to return it back to me.
Yeah.
Um, Look, I am very concerned, for example, more on the kind of operational tech side of things, right? Where, autonomous cars, operational processes, I guess as manufacturing, all these kind of things like, utilities that, we rely on so much, again, as they start to, you know, use agentic more and more, where more physical, healthcare, medical, you know, things that really affect, your physical side of life. Um, if those start to get compromised, those agents, as they start making decisions, operating machinery, deciding what to do with oil rigs, I think, given all the security flaws that we have, I think we're going to see. My prediction is yes, we'll see a lot more, you know, incidents that occur. But I think the risk to just, our broader infrastructure, um, and what could happen there, with nation states and looking to attack and, compromise. I think they've not been able to penetrate previously some of that stuff, or, not as impactful. But I think their agentic has to be really thought through really carefully. Like if it can physically do something that, yes, if it's software that's updating books and records, then that's an internal process. But the physical side of things is really something that I think will increase in terms of issues.
That's interesting. That's a interesting conversation, and you are ahead of the curve, right? And then that's why I love talking with you. I think that will be interesting place to look, and yeah, I'm curious
Uh,
how this year will turn out when agents that are also in the physical world and not just in the digital
yeah.
where we
And
at right
and
now.
I think it's an area that for NHIs more broadly, kind of that whole operational tech, OT, it's
Yeah,
probably not had the right focus that it needs. And I think the industry needs to look at that as well.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. All right. Do you want to just share a little bit about Token and kind of your vision and maybe what you're focused on working on, um, based on, and also what's driving, based on what you're hearing from customers that's driving innovation at Token?
Yeah, of course. So Token, we were one of the first companies that tackled the NHI space and was born to solving those problems. When we started working on token security, what we saw is that yes, visibility is an issue, but the actual challenge is taking an action. Remediation was the biggest fear because unlike human access, when it comes to our machine accounts and our non-human identities, they are connected into important applications, into important services. And I remember this fear also that I had as a developer of deleting a key
Yeah.
and and probably something bad will happen. So when we started talking security, we asked, okay, how can we be much more action driven on helping our customers to actually move from point A to point B, to take actions and not just having a list of identities and of issues that they will never take action, and will never and will just have more problems to over to ignore, basically. So when we ask ourselves, what we saw is that the real issue with remediation is this data layer. So basically, remediation is a data problem. I need to not only know about the identity that's managed in a specific technology, but also look outside and look in the larger ecosystem of this identity. Almost think about it as each identity has few different pieces in the puzzle, and each piece has a different owner, has a different applications it's running at, a different integration that we need to connect. So when we did that and we created this data layer, everything else became much easier. Taking an action, automation, workflows became much easier leveraging our platform. And then something much bigger happened, and that's organization that adopting AI, right? AI became the biggest task, the biggest mission that every enterprise CEOs, boards are thinking about is how can
Yeah.
I adopt AI? How can I be more efficient? And for enterprise, it's AI agents. And AI agents has to have autonomy. They have to have capabilities of taking actions, and they have to be connected to our resources. So token is already there. Looking at it from a data perspective, what else did we need to do is looking at the agents ecosystem where I'm managing these agents and connect the dots. And that's exactly what we did. Now, after that we gain visibility into those AI agents and connect them into the different resources, the different non-human identities they are leveraging, Westcall said, okay, but what now? What is different? And there is a big difference between a classic workload and AI agent. We just spoke about it for the
Mm.
past 30 minutes, but we worked very hard for each one of those agents to have a very accurate analysis of what is the purpose of the agent, what is the goal, what is the intent. So our entire solution for AI is looking at this from AI lenses and not just changing our existing solutions to show another class of identities. You need to really change the way that you're tackling those AI agents. And for us, it's an intent-based remediation. So that's what we did. We have a very strong engine that not helping you only to take actions with confidence, but also taking the right actions based on the goal of the agent. So that's a little bit an overview about our unique approach. It's we have a lot of integrations. We have today the largest inventory for AI agents, technologies. We see that this is the future, and this is where IM teams needs to go and focus on. The other thing that we were very early on adopting is adopting AI ourselves,
Mm.
right? So we came with the first NHI MCP server, allowing our customers connect their own agents in order to do more with their existing resources, because that's the promise, right? So we have today a lot of different agents that are part of the token suite that helping you remediate, helping you taking actions, compliance framework, all those things based on our own agents platform that really change the customer experience as well and how fast you can take an action. And I'm very excited about it. I think that you are representing a subset of the market. You're working with a lot of different vendors, and I'm very excited for all of us to really be a part of this such an exciting technological transformation and help organizations do it in a secure way, right? And adopt these technologies. So it's really became a mission for us in Token, and that in this time right now to help organization solve those challenges and create this big company and a product that's supporting that.
Okay, look, some great insights there. The first thing you said around remediation was kind of music to my ears. Having been myself a practitioner that's run, huge NHI programs at large financial institutions, the discovery, the inventory, the ownership, that's kind of the basic you need to have in place, but the remediation is so tough to do. You said, you change a password, you move it to a vault, many other things, and something can break, right? And I got really, life examples of that's what's,
Yeah.
happened at many orgs. So yes, helping with remediation, I think, is very powerful. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping in the coming years, AI, to your later point, will actually help accelerate the remediation activities, will help us maybe over time, you know, either better risk manage the static long league credentials or get rid of them or do more cycling rotation whilst we move to the more modern dynamic world.
Yeah. We have enough anxiety in our life, right? Every day, like so many things, the world is changing. Um, Giving you and giving security teams and identity teams another list of problems they are not empowered and they cannot solve is almost doing the opposite of what we want to do in this market, right? We want to guide them, we want to give them the capabilities and automate and do that in scale, right? So remediation should be a core offering, not just for token, for every identity team. They need to assess solutions based on how fast can I create a change in my organization.
Yeah, excellent point. One final thing on what you were talking about around understanding what agents do, their intent. How are you seeing that being modeled? Like, are you doing that yourself in terms of understanding what the agent's doing and trying to determine, what is it trying to do? What is it? Have you seen it do? Or are you seeing kind of, do we need to evolve to be able to describe an agent better, when it's, created in our CMDBs? Do we need to,
Yeah.
explain what it is and what it's going to do? Or do you think that's not realistic and it's got to be modeled more on, you know, seeing everything in that data layer and kind of
Yeah,
reverse engineering and figuring out what it's doing?
that's the issue is that you can't just based on the activity understand the agent goals and the purpose. You need to look at so many different data points. But I think that we released a couple of months ago what a solution that we outsourced to the entire open source to the entire industry. We call it the Privilege Guardian. That was a tool for every agent builder to plan the agent. So you write what you want the agent to do, then to which applications you want it to connect. And then what we saw is that people wrote a lot of very vague definition. Hey, I want these agents to do a cost optimization. Then we asked him, okay, which applications you want to connect? He said AWS and GCP. So now I have a cost optimization agent connected to AWS and GCP. Can I really understand by this definition what is a good activity and what's not?
Mm.
No, I have to
No.
dig deeper, right?
Mm.
So it's more of a dialogue that we need to create. So what the next layer that we did was this back and forth with the agent builder on what it actually means. Does this activity make sense? Optimize bill where, how? And then we have a much more clear intent. This is a dialogue. Today, what we're doing in our engine is generating that based on the activity, the
Mm.
connectivity, the different documentation that exists. But then you want to also revalidate it and create this interaction with the actual agent builder. So you need both, basically.
Okay, fascinating. All right, look, as we start to close the discussion, like what two or three bits of advice would you give to the audience and organizations, right, from an NHI and agentic standpoint that they should take away and think about as they're building, the future of identity security in an AI era?
Yeah, I think that the strongest identity and security team that we work with are the ones that are a bit ahead of the curve, that are experimenting things themselves, that have an opinion by themselves. So yeah, you can listen to me and to other vendors about how to tackle this space. But the first thing that I advise every security practitioner is experiment, play with it. Just like you said, hey, I try to vibe code. Then the issues comes up, right? Then I understand different issues. An interesting story. We had a management session and we talked about how to adopt more AI agents into our organization. And one of our guys from the operations side said, whoa, wait, but what, how can we manage their access? And we said, okay, we can use our own dog fooding for that. But it was just funny to see that when people are putting themselves in the shoes of other, they start to see all of those challenges surfacing up. And so my biggest advice to every security practitioner is play around, experiment, create your own agents, play around with it, and see how then you can support your builders community in a good enough way from security practitioner, but also with a strong user experience. It's not yes or no, it's how can I help you do it in the best way, right? So that's our perspective.
Okay, with that, Itamar, thanks for joining Mr NHI on the Non-Human and AI Identity podcast. If folks want to learn a little bit more, how can they find out more about Token?
Absolutely. Go into our website. Would love to talk with each one of you. And Lalit, that was a pleasure. Great conversation. Our website is token.security, of course. And thank you very much.
Thanks. Look, I really enjoyed this episode. We've obviously got more great speakers coming up to talk about this space. So look, please subscribe and enjoy the show. You'll find us on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. We've had a great reaction with our launch just last week. And of course, visit nhimg.org, where we've got over 2,500 articles all about NHIs. And if you want to get skilled up, NHItraining.org, where we've now got the most comprehensive training on NHIs, including AI agents. But with that, a pleasure, Itamar. Hopefully see you soon, maybe at RSA in San Fran in a
Absolutely.
few months. All right.
Yeah. I'll
Thank
see
you.
you there. All right.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.